Hello and welcome to Indies on Indie. I'm your host, Patrick Poe, and this is my podcast, Indies on Indie. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Hope you're feeling good. Hope you're feeling safe and happy and all those wonderful things. I'm doing better than last time we talked. I don't know if you remember that, but last time I talked to you, I felt like I was going to die from the vaccine. I didn't die. I did gain superpowers. I am now vaccinated. So that's really exciting. I'm ready to get doing stuff again, get back into comedy, get back into stand-up comedy, get back into making some good sketches for you guys. I'm very excited. I'm a little nervous. It's going to be weird getting back out there for the first time, really, since this all went down. I'm nervous to be around people without masks on. I don't know how soon I'll be going to restaurants. I don't know how soon I'll really feel comfortable doing a lot of these things, but I'm going to try to start doing them. It's going to be scary. It's going to be an adjustment period, but I'm excited to get back to creating things, get back to telling jokes and making people laugh. And get back to festivals. We've got a film festival coming up in June in Mulvane, the Doc Sunback Film Festival. I've talked about it a million times on here. We've gone multiple years. I'm so excited to go again. And that's happening now because the world's starting to open back up. And that's really exciting. I'm so excited for people to see our short films that we're going to be showing there and talking to people. And oh my gosh, it's weird and crazy, but the world, it's happening. So that's what I've been up to. We watched the Oscars last week, and I thought it was really interesting seeing their socially distanced, kind of pared down Oscars. I thought they handled that really well. Still allowed them to have a celebration, still allowed them to do all the award show things that you do around that. It was really fun because this year, just like last year, we'd watched all the Best Picture nominees, which kind of covers most of the movies in most of the categories. It doesn't really get all of them. There's still some I want to go see. Like, I really want to go see Another Round. That looks great. So hopefully I'll get around to that. But it did allow us to see most of the movies in most of the categories. So that was kind of fun, and I love doing that. And if you want to hear what me and Lolo thought about those, you can head on over to our Patreon, and you can listen to our Patreon exclusive episodes of our other podcast, First Timers Movie Club. So that's awesome, and those are there. If you listen to the Promising Young Woman episode, there's a partial way through where we just kind of discuss what we would vote for each of the Oscars, and that's kind of fun. So you can hear all that on our Patreon, patreon.com/ixfilmproductions. I guess this is a good time to remind you that it's always awesome to rate, review, subscribe, click 5 stars if you're on iPhone or whatever. Click all the things that you can click to rate this podcast or review it or any of those things. That really helps us out. Or if you're watching on YouTube, go watch something else that we've made on YouTube. Click subscribe to us and then go watch Silent But Deadly, our short film. I really love that short. I think it's hilarious. It's a sketch. It's a fart joke. I love fart jokes. Everybody loves fart jokes. So go watch Silent But Deadly on our YouTube right now. All right, now that that's out of the way, let's get to today's guest. It was really fun to talk to today's guest because he does comedy. There aren't a lot of people that I get to talk to that also do comedy, because I do comedy and he does comedy, and that was really exciting. It's really fun because I think a lot of indie filmmakers kind of focus on telling that emotional drama or the indie horror film, but like, he does indie comedy, and I love that. So that was really exciting. You can go watch his new film, This Is What I Look Like Naked. It's out now on Vimeo. He just put it out after a very successful quarantine pandemic festival run. So go watch that. He's a writer. He's a sketch comedian. You can check out his works at ethandavid.com. Here is me and Ethan David. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, I'm glad you reached out, man.
Yeah.
I watched your film today. I watched it actually, and I watched a lot of the YouTube clips that are on your website also.
Oh yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, so did you start in like improv comedy, sketch comedy? Where do you Where do you come from comedically?
I started in sketch comedy. I moved to New York City in 2013, and I just like right away. I actually the producer of my short film was the first person I ever really worked with in New York City. She had her own web series called Low Budget Sketch Show. Her name's
Okay.
Georgia Hudson, and Georgia had this web series called Low Budget Sketch Show where we just made low budget sketches. It was like a really fun like group of people and like ensemble. And we just like would just go around New York City lugging our like, I had a DSLR and like a tripod, and we would just like shoot on the fly, and it was fun. And then I got involved with like the UCB theater here in New York, so I did like classes there, and I did some improv, but mostly just writing.
Okay. So you're not from New York then?
No, I'm from Connecticut, and I
Okay.
went to college in New Hampshire. I went to this small liberal arts school where I studied film production called Keene State College. Not a lot of people have heard of.
Yeah, I have not. You're correct.
That's great.
So
It's off the radar.
why'd you go there?
I just liked the campus. I don't know. I did the college touring thing when I was applying. I got in. That's another thing. It's and it was a cool like film program. I liked it. It was like it was very like interesting because they the first couple classes I took there, we would shoot on like 16 millimeter like black and white film, like a Bolex camera.
Oh, wow.
It just like feels like very like kind of like outdated, obviously, but it does really teach you like a respect for like the medium and whatnot. Because like I don't know, like those limitations of like having to actually pay per like roll of film and like and
Yeah.
not really knowing exactly how it's gonna turn out until you like develop it. That's not like developing it, like not like a DSLR. You just like look at the screen, like you can
Yeah, you
see.
can just like watch it back immediately and be like, "Oh, that didn't work."
Immediately, and it really gives you an appreciation for it. And like like the limitations of it, I think are really helpful because like I'll start off by making like a shot list of like 50 shots for like a short film, and then the teacher will be like, that's going to be a lot of money if you want to do that. Like, you want to like cut this down like to a third or whatever. So it's like, and then you really cut it down, and then each shot becomes so much more purposeful. It's like, how much story and information can I tell in this like one frame? It's like, as
Yeah.
opposed to like close up, like over the shoulder, wide master, like, like all those kind of standard ones. It's like, well, what's like a more creative way I can like kind of pan back and forth or, wrap around and whatnot. And something I try to keep in mind even now that I don't shoot film anymore. I shoot digitally, but like, I try to still keep it in mind.
Yeah, that's definitely. I went to school for photography actually,
Uh-huh.
and that was the thing he talked about a lot. Is like, yeah, I get it. You have a digital camera, but think of every shot as if you can only take one, not 20 of that shot until
Totally.
it's right.
I think that's sound advice.
Instilling that in your brain really helps as you set up shots and compose moments.
Uh-huh.
So, what made you decide to move to New York, and what was that like?
Yeah, I was like, it was weird. So I went to school in New Hampshire, and I was doing like a lot of work, like my senior year of college, on like film crews in like the kind of greater Boston area.
Okay.
And I had like some connections out there, but then I don't know. I just like I was very drawn, I think, to the UCB theater. It was like I know like a lot of like comedians I was like admired at the time, television writers who sort of had this like kind of trajectory I was interested in, and filmmakers too, like comedy filmmakers. They had all like been talking about like starting out at this theater. And I think that was really like the force that kind of like overrode like whatever like logical step would have been to like probably move to like where I had these connections in like Boston and whatnot, like film crews. And so eventually I just bit the bullet and like moved here. And then right away, I mean, a good friend of mine, Lizzie Fury, she I like had studied abroad with her in college. She went to like Tulane, and we were like in Prague together, and she like introduced me to Georgia Hudson because they had like known each other through like UCB classes. And then Georgia and I became this like writing partners and collaborators, and she produced this short film. And so just like from there you just kind of like meet people and you get like excited about like certain people and like how you work together. And that's sort of what happened there.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of those things that like I've always thought about getting out of, because I'm centralized in Kansas City.
Uh-huh.
And I've been like, I need to get to a bigger city eventually. But like that jump is so frightening, I feel like. So it's really impressive that you just took that leap and believed in it, and it seems to have worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's interesting. Yeah, I do think about like, like if like how different things would have been if I like didn't, if I like chose like Boston or like even like the New Hampshire where I went to school, like in like that area. But like, yeah, I think I yeah, it's weird. Like, yeah, part of me, it's like there's part of me that yeah sees what you're saying with like feel like you need to be centralized in like a big city, and then there's part of me that's like, well, in like the internet age, it is kind of like, and I also like one thing I've noticed with like these film festivals that I've been doing this past year with this film is like I really appreciate like seeing stuff outside of like an apartment. Like, I'm used to like the New York comedy scene where like, oh, like my sketch comedy team, we're always like shooting in our apartments and whatnot. It's like, it is nice to just like see the rest of the country besides New York and LA. And so I think, I think there's definitely those pros that people not in like a big city can really lean into.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll admit I still shoot most of my stuff in my home. Like,
oh yeah,
like a lot of my sketches, I'm like, well, I've got this room, so it takes place in this room. Like,
you're like location scouting right when you get out of bed.
Exactly. Because that's what I do mostly. Also, is sketch comedy and stuff like that on YouTube.
That's great.
And so I completely understand being like, well, I can write what I have, which is this house. Like,
yeah, I mean, I love sketch comedy. I think it's like I was just talking to my friend about this the other day. How like I feel like I always hope I'm like involved in sketch comedy in some way. I don't want it to just be like early in career, like I did sketch comedy and then I moved on to like films and there's I hope I'm always just like making sketch comedy. I think it's such like a fun form of it's so endless. Like you'll never not have an idea for a sketch comedy.
yeah.
And, even when like you're stressing like for like a pitch meeting or whatever, like come up with stuff, like you're gonna show up with something, you're gonna make it something, and it's just really an exciting format to me. Like I watch like sketch shows on TV, I'm just like, oh, this is just so like limitless that you can like literally do anything, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching all of like the sketches that you've written that you have on your website, and it was fun seeing the ones that you'd made during the pandemic that were very much like a single person on their cell phone talking to a camera. And I was like, that's genius, because that's what you have to do at this point. Like,
yeah, I didn't want to. I was trying to really like find a way of like I don't want it to feel like, oh well, I would have done this with like a different setting or different location or like group of people. If it weren't for the pandemic, I don't want it to feel that way. I wanted to really think of ideas specifically that would work as like one person. And like, so I really started thinking about formats. Like I have like, you may have saw like a cameo sketch where it's like a guy, it's like, I think we had a Michael Rappaport like doing a cameo where he gets hired to kill someone. And it's just like, and my friend Mike Smith Rivera did like a great Michael Rappaport impression.
It's a really good impression.
It's a really good impression. I gotta give it, which he just, I just like didn't even know he had that impression when I wrote the first draft. I was like, it could be whoever. It doesn't have to be him. And he just starts doing it like as he's reading. I'm like, oh yeah, it should be him. But yeah, like that was just like an example of just like, okay, well, like if there wasn't a pandemic, I would still have done that sketch, particular sketch as one person, one location, like like. So like it's I wanted to really think of like formats that really lent themselves to the situation at hand.
I totally dig that, because like me and my wife, when everything like went down with the pandemic, we were like, okay, so do we start making sketches about the pandemic? Like, how do we like continue to create? And both of us kind of decided, no, I don't want to make a joke that's about having to wear a mask. I don't want to make a joke that's about like being stuck at home, because it's not fun for a lot of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I liked that, like all the sketches you did, I could tell like, oh, they filmed that because like it's one person at a camera. But they don't have to do with the pandemic. They don't have to do with a shutdown. They don't have to do with anything bad that's happened in the past year. They're just goofy fun, and I loved that.
Yeah, I think a big part of that is probably just like being here in New York, where things are. And I've been here the whole time, and it's really grim. It's really
Yeah.
like it's the hospitals were overflowing, and not to like put a dark spin on your podcast here, but it was like really it was a really difficult time mentally, and I was all of us here obviously were like it's like it was scary. So I think yeah, you are looking for that kind of like escapism, sort of like this kind of like, let's just laugh about something. Let's just be silly and goofy.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that like there's no comedy to mine from this, past year. I think like, there has been.
I mean, SNL's done a great job with some of those sketches about the pandemic,
Totally.
but like, it's kind of nice to have that refreshing stuff like what you made. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We started to do a show around when SNL first started doing their like at home segments. And I was like, oh, like it is cool how they're like sometimes addressing it, sometimes not. And, and if you like watch like my website just has my sketches, but they're all part of like a creator show. We do have like a mix of some like kind of pandemic ones. And yeah, I think SNL, I think, to give them credit, I think they did a good job with those at-home segments. I think they really like kind of figured out like just how to
use that medium.
Absolutely, yeah, because it's completely different from like what SNL is.
Yeah. So during this whole year, you've been screening This Is What I Look Like Naked at film festivals. Is that right?
Yeah, all virtual film festivals.
Okay. What was that like?
It was first disappointing,
Yeah.
I made the film and I was really excited to like, I love the festival experience. I've like, this is my first film, but like I've gone in other capacities. I either just to go as like a fan or just like, my writing partner, Georgia Hudson, who produced this film. She, her and I wrote a pilot, and we went to one like Minnesota called like Catalyst Content Festival, and that was a lot of fun. It's just like fun, like being there, like in person, going to the screenings. You're in a new city, you're trying their food, you're like you're going to like the events and whatnot. And so I was definitely like disappointed early on. I knew it wasn't the biggest problem happening in the world that like I couldn't go to film festivals, but like I was part of me did consider like, oh, should I just sit on this? Should I just like not touch it?
Yeah.
And just like wait till the world is like somewhat returned and then like, start submitting it as if it was like a new film. But then I was like, I was really just thinking ahead. I'm like, I don't know, like stuff I did in 2019, I'm not caring about as much in 2020. Like, you just want to like every year you just kind of have like your new thing that you're working on. And so like, I just decided to do it. And, I'll say it has just like pros and cons. Like, you have to really just accept it for what it is. Like an analogy here would be like, I'm engaged right now and my, fiance and I were like talking to our wedding venue, where we decided to just like postpone our wedding a year. So like we're getting married next year. But, when we were like talking to our venue, they were like, like about micro weddings. They're like, micro weddings only work if you really accept it for what it is. Like if you don't try to have like a normal wedding and like a micro wedding, or like don't try to have that expectation, excitement. So like you just have to really like understand that this is like you're wearing masks, you're like you're not dancing, you're like you're separating from like your relatives and loved ones who are like right over there, and it's like it's just a completely different situation, and you either just have to lean into that and love that and like be okay with it, or just like understand it, like it's not the wedding that you imagine, and which I'm all for. I think that's great. And so like I think it was sort of that sort of comparison I would make with the festivals. It's like like accept that like it's not that like you're going and networking and going to all these screenings and all that, but there's also perks too of like you could see more stuff, because if you go to a festival, if there's like a screening you're at, there might be another screening at the exact same time in another theater that you can't go to because you're at this other one. So you can like see both screenings now, or there's virtual networking events at some of these festivals that can still be like practical and like getting to meet people, and like you write down their number, email right there. So there's definitely still like the pros of it. And I think there's certain festivals I'll give a shout out to. It'll be like Yonkers Film Festival, Hollywood Comedy Shorts, and Chain New York City Film Festival. These were ones that I think did a good job of like really trying to create. Whereas like, and not saying the other festivals weren't great, but like, you know, some festivals might have just been like, you know, here's the link, you know,
Yeah.
your screening, like tell everyone about it, you know, invite people. Whereas like I think those couple of festivals I just mentioned really made it a point to try to like recreate the festival experience.
Yeah, I mean, I know at a year ago, I guess a year and a couple months ago, so like February 2020, we
Mm-hmm.
had just nearly finished our feature film and started submitting it, and we had two festivals here in Kansas City that had accepted our feature and were about to show it, and then the shutdown happened, and they were like, "Do you want to do online?" And we decided to pull, and we pretty much didn't do any of the online festivals. I don't know if that was the right decision or if it was the wrong one. It's just the decision I made. And so I'm so intrigued, like where were you in that like process? Had you screened at any festivals yet, or?
No, we actually shot this film in February 2020.
Oh wow.
We wrapped in right like the last weekend of February. And then, you know, like 2 weeks later was when New York City went into lockdown. And we
Yeah.
had no idea. I mean, we were on set and it was like maybe by the second weekend, you know, it was like a bigger story. But I remember like the first weekend, it was like one case in Chicago. We were
Yeah.
like talking about that. We're like, oh, there's like, did you hear there's a case in Chicago? Oh, I wonder if it's going to come to New York City. And like, obviously it did. And
Yeah.
so it's just like, and everywhere. Yeah. I mean, so it's just like, yeah, no, we hadn't been in any festivals.
Okay. Yeah. So you were in post production still.
Yeah, I did post production entirely in quarantine. That was and right in the early stages of quarantine. Me and colorist who Kate Montgomery, she was also our director of photography, did a beautiful job. And I think yeah, we're obviously sharing into her screen on Zoom. And she was in like DaVinci Resolve, and like, you know, that's how we kind of just did the coloring because I couldn't
Wow.
like go sit next to her or anything. Yeah.
So did you send her all the footage? Like, what was the process for that? That just sounds like, no offense to your life, but that sounds terrible. I would not want to do that.
It was not ideal. Yeah, I would have much rather just like gone over there, like sat with her, like had like some coloring sessions and whatnot. Same with the
Yeah,
mixing. You know, the audio mixing would have been great
because
too.
you edited it, right?
I did edit it. Yeah.
And then did you send it off to her and to your sound editor, or what did you, and sound mixer? How did you?
Yeah, I just kept cutting it till it was locked. You know, I didn't want to like because that's what I have a lot of video editing experience. I've done that professionally for a while, and so I know the headache of like it's picture locked, and then you send it off, and then like you know, oh, actually, I want to change this, and so I really like as the editor and director, like person, I was like, you know, I'm just like not gonna let that happen. So yeah, I locked it, and then I think I just sent it all over Google Drive. I like, you know, I had to like kind of do it in increments because I only had so much storage. And
Yeah.
yeah, I would just send her like, here's day one, card one. Here's day
Wow.
one, card two. And then here's day two, card one. And then it's just like really like, you know, and because it's like these 4K files.
Yeah.
And just really, I mean, she was also the DP. So I think she may have had a good amount of them. But yeah, and then like the sound I had to send over too to the sound person, Gertie Christopher. And so who also did the on-set sound. So yeah, it was like it was all virtual. It was a bit of a headache, and I wouldn't, you know, have done it that way. And there's also I'll add there was some like pickup shots I would have liked, but you know, we
Yeah.
had to kind of work around that as well. You know, some I would have liked to capture more of like, you know, I was talking to the bar about maybe like coming and getting like some of their actual nightlife and like, you know, filling in some of the
Yeah.
crowd stuff. And like, you know, I wanted to get like a pickup shot of like, you know, a sign, like to kind of like give more context for like karaoke night and whatnot. But like, you know, there's definitely little things that like only I would notice, but like, you know, that were disrupted by it. But for the most part, we're very lucky and grateful that we got to like wrap production before.
Yeah, it's great
That
that
would
you
have been,
finished.
yeah, yeah.
So obviously the movie revolves around a song that
Mm.
you also wrote.
Yeah.
That is hilarious.
Thank
And
you.
what was it like having to create this song for the film? Like, have you written a song before? How difficult was that? And then the filming, audio recording, all of that work. Did you get someone to make the beat? Tell me about making a song.
Yeah, I want to say it was maybe like 2 years ago. I just decided I'm gonna be into musical comedy now.
Okay.
I was just like, it was just like, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is like a really great show. I don't know if you watched it, but I'm just like a big fan of Rachel Bloom and her comedy. And in general, I've always suspended. I'm like, Get Him to the Greek, like
Yeah.
Infant Sorrow, How to Snow. Like, it's always been like really funny to me. Like, I just always been like a fan of musical comedy. And I was just like, I just started introducing it to my sketch comedy. Like, I'm just gonna always like, I'll write some song sketches. I'll have like a song component to a sketch that isn't like an otherwise song sketch. And so yeah, and I just got like really into that. And I just so when it came to this film, it was like kind of an accident. I had this sort of like one sentence idea in my head for a while. I was just like, person who works at karaoke bar does karaoke after the bar closes. Like the bar's empty, everyone's gone, and they stick around and they do karaoke, which is not really like a premise, but like it was just like a one sentence idea I had in my head for a while.
I know
And
those things you like type in your phone and you're like, that's almost a thought, but it's not
that's
a
exactly
full
what
thought.
it was.
Yeah.
It was in my notes app, and it sat there for a long time. And I was just like, well, this kept like being interesting to me, like. And I started like kind of building out from there. And so early on, before I even had like a solid foundation, premise, whatever you want to call it, before I even started writing, I just like randomly like looked up like how much it costs to like license a song. I think I looked up the song. I don't even remember who sings it. Just like, knock 3 times on the ceiling if you want me. That a very old song.
I don't know that
Just,
song.
yeah, well, it's all right. But it's what I remember from when I was younger. And I was like, yeah, maybe this character's like nostalgic, sing like an old song. I reached out to whoever like has the rights to that song or whatever, like studio, whatever. And they're like, okay, great, yeah, looking forward to working with you. So it's about like $20,000 a minute or something. I don't know. Sometimes like way
It's
beyond
insane.
the full scope of the budget of the film. And I just didn't even respond to the email. I thought like responding to that email would make me somewhat liable. I ran away from my computer. So I was just like, and so yeah, I was just like, well, like there goes that idea, unless I want to just write the song for the movie. And then I was like, well, I could try that. So yeah, I just wrote the song for the movie, and it was just kind of like a fun process, because I think the genesis was really just like kind of just like an inside joke. I would just sing around the apartment all the time, and then that would just like annoy my fiance throughout.
It's a very catchy song.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, going into the production of it, Doug Wydick is this great music producer and great comedian in his own right, and writer, singer, all these things. And he's in Brooklyn. He has Sweet Tea Studios, it's called. And so I just like knew I wanted to work with him on this. I had like, as an editor, I had like done some of like his projects before, like, people who had gone to him for the music and then gone to me for like editing the music video.
Yeah.
And so, I touched base with him, and then on my sketch team at the time, her name's Nimini Ware. She's just like this incredible singer who like I just found out through one of my musical sketches. It just like has a really good voice, and through looking into her own work. And I just like really before like the script was even finalized and like casting was really finalized, I just like reached out to her. I was like, hey, do you want to like record this song together and then like potentially like be in this movie? And she said yes. And so we like just got together in Brooklyn one day, and I give Doug and Nimini a lot of credit. I really just like I'm not like, I love musical comedy. As I said, I like writing it, and they definitely like use the lyrics and whatnot, but Doug really like kind of helped figure out the melody a lot better. He was throwing stuff at me. I didn't really like, it's like right now you got like a 2, 3, 4 melody. You want like a 4, 4, 4. I was like, sure, yeah. I was like things I didn't like fully like tempo, like lingo and whatnot. And so, yeah, him and Nimini were just so professional, and like they like spoke, because she's like, you know, a great singer and she's been in the studio a lot. They like spoke the same language, and they really just like played off each other so well. It was like a lot of like just me in the corner with like my phone, like filming, like here's behind the scenes, which just reminds me, yeah, I should probably do something with that footage. But yeah, yeah, just like kind of like, yeah, just behind the scenes, kind of like filming, because I was like, well, like, you know, I did the lyrics, I'm just handing it off now. Like
Yeah.
they really were like an incredible duo to watch work together, and I give them a lot of credit for how the song turned out. Anyone who thinks it's like catchy or whatever, it's because of them.
It was stuck in my head all morning as I cooked breakfast. I was like singing it in my head, and I was like, I've got to put on different music, or this is all I'm going to think for the rest of my life. Like,
it's your headspace now.
Yeah, it's now caught in my brain. Thank you for that. Oh man, so do you have any musical experience? Because I know like we've hired composers for our movies, and every time they're like, what kind of like this thing, or like they'll use all sorts of music lingo, and I'm like, I've got no musical knowledge. I don't know. It needs to sound kind of like this song or this feeling, and they're like, fine. Like,
yeah, no, I don't. Like, I think a part of my like wanting to like do all like this musical comedy is like compensating for my lack of musical talent. I think like my whole life I've like been like I'll listen to music and I'll like, this is the most embarrassing thing I'll ever say, but like I just like when I picture myself like on stage singing it, like it's just like I think like I just like love like the idea of like a music career. I think it's like very like fun to me. I think it's just like concerts and like, you know,
yeah,
rocking out. Like I remember I used to like play garage band in high school, the Guitar Hero, like rock band, whatever it was called. Yeah. And like I would just like I was like going crazy, like my friend's living room or whatever. So I was just like, yeah, I just think part of me like always was like resents that I just don't have musical talent. It's like, well, I'm just gonna be like ironic about it, but and like satirical about it. But I think yeah, there's definitely part of me that like looks at like musicians and rock stars and just it was like a little resentment. And so I think, yeah, to answer your question, no, I don't have like any musical talent, but like I think I got like a good sense of like, first of all, like if I'm gonna like parody something and like this, it's coming from a place of respect, like, you know.
yeah,
I sent Doug a lot of references leading up to this, and like Rihanna was a big one, and I love Rihanna. I think she's like so incredible, and so like I think you know, if this is like at all a parody of like that kind of music, it's coming from a place of like appreciation, and it's like you know, just like I think it's better in general to like do satire when it's coming from something that you actually do enjoy.
yeah, 100%. The best jokes are about things you love normally. Because if
Totally.
it's something that you hate, you can usually feel that little bit of hate, and you're like, this person's angry, not funny. Like,
Yeah. This person just is like venting, like
yeah, they're just mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like sometimes I'll react with laughter out of nervousness at their anger, but it's not actual joyous laughter, you know?
Yeah. It's just like I'm afraid they're gonna flip the table.
Yeah. Yeah, I do a lot of stand-up, and I've met a lot of stand-ups where I'm like, that's what you have. You've got the angry thing, and I'm definitely laughing, but it's because I'm scared of you.
Yeah. It's because I'm like in close proximity of you, and you have the high ground.
Exactly. You learned from Obi-Wan Kenobi. You know what's going on. That's so much fun. I really did enjoy your movie quite a bit because
thank you. I appreciate that.
So I have been a filmmaker for about 10 years now, and I do a lot of film festivals. I talk to a lot of filmmakers in the podcast. There are not a lot of us out there making just like enjoyable, heartfelt comedies, you know? And so it was nice to see you doing that.
Yeah, it's just, again, it's just going back to like what I like, you know. It's like what I enjoy. I just it's just easier for me to like just kind of tap into like, well, what am I like sitting on the couch watching every night?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I can like draw that kind of inspiration of like tone, and because that's something we talked about a lot in like the table read when the actors first got their eyes on it. They're like, what do you see as like the tone? And it wasn't really something I like thought about too much until they said that, because they're like, well, it's like you've got this goofy song that's like funny, but then you've got this kind of like character who's like reckoning with like, this sort of like this kind of emotional anxiety of like, a falling out with a friend, or just like the friendship going old, like, not like being as in touch with a friend as you'd like to be. And it's like comparing yourself to others. Like that's just like, I think like something that like a lot of anxiety informs that too, I think. And so I think it's just like, we talked about that a lot with like, what is the kind of like emotional story versus the kind of funny premise, and just like, how do we sort of like switch between the two without it being jarring?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's what's kind of so nice about your film, is that it is fun and funny, but it is really heartfelt and relatable in the fact that all artists will definitely relate to seeing someone who's become more successful than them and having that little bit of resentment. And I think all people also just have that, because we're always comparing ourselves to others unnecessarily and usually ending up upset about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I think it's just like, and it says it's not always just like, within your field. It could even just be like the idea of success. Like, it's like, it could be someone who's like, successfully like selling lawnmowers. I don't know. Like they just like, it's like really cool. I was talking to my cousin last night. He's got like a really good, like, he owns like 10 FedEx routes. I was like, wow, that's really cool. Like, you're like, he owns like the trucks and whatnot.
Yeah.
This is really cool. Like, that's awesome. And it's just like success in general can be like a point of envy, or just like not even envy. Sometimes it's just like in terms of like comparing where you are, like, in each other's lives, like where you are in your life compared to their life. It's just like, it's not always as like, well, I want to be a filmmaker, writer, comedian, and like this person's a successful filmmaker, writer, comedian. It could be like, just the broadest definition of the word success, and you just find yourself like, holding, like, looking at them like it's like a mirror, and it's like, how does it compare to me?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm one person feeling a little bit more successful than me away from resentment any minute. No.
Yeah, no, I think in terms of like the characters, I'm definitely team Zoe, the like the one who's sort of like comparing the DJ who's kind of like comparing herself to her friend. I'm like, yeah, that's the one I kind of relate to. Like,
yeah, well, I mean, like, it's that the cheesy thing of write what you know, and it's funny because people will be like, well, like, maybe they don't see Ethan David as the like sad female DJ, but like in a way you are. Like,
I am a sad female DJ.
Exactly.
That's all I ever want people to see.
But there's definitely a part of you in that character, and that's what makes it relatable. And then they see that character's relatable to themselves,
Yeah, I think I definitely like, there's nothing in this movie that I'm kind of just like, oh yeah, that happened to me. Like, that's real. That's like whatever.
Yeah.
It's more just like, it's very like fictionalized, but like it's more of just like an emotional connection I have to, like, I relate to it on like an emotional level of like, those instincts that we were just talking about. Because it's just like, yeah, I'm not like a DJ. I'm not like, I'm not a woman, and I'm not I don't know any famous pop stars. I didn't share an inside joke with one. But like, it's just like, that's like this sort of contrived premise that's coming from like an emotional inspiration of like, just looking at myself in comparison to these people I knew or once knew.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to kind of circle back around to talking about making comedy and being a comedy filmmaker. Because I don't know if you've noticed the trend that I feel like I've noticed at film festivals, but it seems like a lot more of like, this is going to sound rude, but sad, like heartstring drama or horror films end up being like the festival films that like show at every festival and become festival darlings. And there are times where as a comedian, I'm like, well, I could make that movie, but I'd rather make you laugh. Like, do you ever have that feeling that I have?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I have like and I have appreciation for those. I can like, I think like I can definitely like sit and watch them and kind of like okay, I get like the sort of emotional story that's being told here. I think I think the number one rule for me with comedy is like, well, is it going to make people laugh? I want like, if I talk to people about it, are they going to laugh just from like the description of it? I think part of it comes from like a self-conscious place for me. It's like I'm like that writer's room mentality of like, I've spent so much time pitching sketches out loud where like I'm on like sketch teams and I'll like go to the pitch meeting and I'll be like, okay, so here's an idea where this person's doing this, and like if like they don't laugh, it's just like your like heart like sinks. It's like you need to hear laughter, and like I'm not like a stand up like I don't have like that outlet for like saying something and then like I hear laughter in response, and especially like with this whole virtual festival circuit, I haven't gotten that either. So it's like it's like sitting in a room, but it's like I think to me, like the answer to that question is like it's the comedian in me that's just like I need like to hear laughter in some way, even though like I'm not necessarily a performer, so it's like something I write. I need to hear it generate laughter.
Yeah. Oh no, I definitely relate to that.
Yeah, totally. And then like, you go to like and me and Georgia were talking about this, so, like at one of the festivals, like how do you know when like something's going well when like it's not a comedy? Because it's like everyone's just dead quiet and we're like and then afterwards I'm like, wow, that was amazing. It's like, oh, you thought like I couldn't tell like if you like I couldn't tell if everyone hated it or not because like it's just complete silence in a room.
Yeah.
And so I respect anyone that like can like work in a genre outside of comedy because it's just like I need to hear something. I
feel the same way, and that's what I love about making comedies and going to festivals and showing it is that number one, I love hearing that laughter in the room at like a joke I made on a film. I'm like, oh, that's perfection to me. And then also, yeah, as I'm watching it, I know whether or not my film is working. And then like you'll see a drama after that and it's all quiet and you're like, I don't know if I couldn't handle that. I couldn't sit through it. Like I would leave during that silence.
Yeah, no, I totally get where you're coming from. There's like, it's a lot of like light comedies where it's just kind of like, it'll like sort of toe that line. I think, yeah, I personally like if it's like a dramedy in that genre, I prefer if it tips more towards the comedy scale at least. Then like, like there's like my film has like dramatic aspects to it, but like I think for the most part we tried to tip that scale towards like some laughs, and I think and even if it was like a full scene of just kind of like like emotional scene, whatever, like we would like try to immediately get into something funny afterwards.
It's also like the comedy feeds the like emotion though, because like if you're laughing and then you hit them with something that's like truthful, they'll be able to feel it better, I feel like, than if like it's just like, oh, here's truthful stuff.
I think that's exactly right. It's like even those moments that like aren't inherently funny, you want it to somehow be informed by comedy, and I think that also plays into that instinct of like wanting to like everything to be comedic in a way. And so I think I definitely prefer when like a dramedy would like tip more towards like comedy, but I think I can appreciate all of it, I guess.
Oh no, I definitely can. There are just times where I've been like, would it be easier if I just like quit trying to make the joke and made these films that like there are cheat codes. Like if you listen to Dax Shepard's Armchair Expert, he always talks about like, yeah, there's certain things in a drama that like you push the camera in, you play the certain type of music. Like there are these cheat codes, but like jokes are either funny or they're not. Like
you live or die by them. And I totally I definitely think there's truth to that, where it's just like it could be like a little bit of an algorithm sometimes. It's just like
and so sometimes I'm like, man, I feel like I could get into a lot more festivals if I just like did those cheat codes and made that drama, but I wouldn't enjoy it,
My sketch team has a show tomorrow night, and I don't know when this will air your podcast, but like tomorrow, April 30th, my sketch team has a show. And one of the writers on my team, Raymond Santos, he has a really funny sketch he wrote where it's a trailer for a movie about film critics. It's just all about like glorifying film critics and whatnot, and like you see the reviews come up on the screen, like finally like, a movie I can relate to, and it's just like it's really funny, and it's just it reminds me of what you're saying. I'm just like striking that like chord that will like
Yeah. Because so you still do, is that Bedrock?
Yes, Bedrock Comedy. Yeah, we started as like a house team at the UCB theater, and then we pandemic happened and everything shut down, and so we just started like exploring virtual opportunities. We've done a couple of virtual shows, and yeah.
So the show tomorrow night, is that like a live show over Zoom, or what is it?
Yeah, it's on so it's all pre-recorded sketches, kind of like the ones you saw on my website. It's just like, we string together all these pre-recorded sketches, and we'll do like a live intro up top, but it's at the Squirrel Comedy Theater. It's
Okay.
It's actually people from like, the UCB theater have founded this new theater. It's like a nonprofit, and yeah, it's our first time doing a show with them. But basically, yeah, there's like a live component where we'll come on like a Zoom interface, and then we'll like set up the show. We'll do like a little bit up top, and then we just have like a 26-minute pre-recorded show where I just like, we all like just shot and edited these sketches, and then I just like strung them together and
awesome.
Did like little transitions in between and kind of connected together and whatnot. Yeah. But yeah, it's we're getting like more comfortable with it and used to it. It's like we've done this a couple of times now, and I think we're getting into a groove with it, I think, as opposed to like, because we started as like a live sketch comedy team, which is a completely different format.
Yeah.
And so like you don't know that like a live sketch comedy team is going to be good at like digital sketch comedy, because it's just like we hadn't tried. And then when we did like our first show over the summer last year, I was like, oh, this is like really good. Like we should like do this more often. I think we all agreed. And
that's
then
awesome.
yeah, and it's just it's a lot of fun, just having pros and cons to both of like, live versus digital.
I mean, I do sketch wise, I do completely digital, and then I also do stand up. And then for some reason, I'm terrified to do either live improv or live sketch comedy. Don't know what it is. It's just this weird thing where I'm like, that seems horrifying. Like,
I think everyone's like context for like live sketch comedy is like SNL, where it's like, this highly produced thing, and it's being broadcast to like millions of people, but there's like the studio audience and it's live. But like most live comedy doesn't have like an art department. It doesn't have like a props department. Like you're on this completely like black theater
with four black boxes
and in this black box void.
Yeah.
And it's like swallowing you whole. And you have to fill in all the blanks of like, the who, what, where, when, without like just coming out and say like, well, we're in a restaurant. Like, so it's just like, you just find these sort of organic ways to really set the scene, and like very minimal props, I guess. But like, yeah, I mean, you really just like, I think it's like a great way to like, learn how to just like keep it all on like on the page, like everything you need to know, because you don't have the benefit of just like seeing a restaurant, seeing a bank, seeing a underwater city. Like, it's just like you have to really just like keep it all on the page and like fill in all those clues.
That's a really great way of looking at it. I've just always looked at it as terrifying.
Well, that's how I look at it. You mentioned improv. I did improv for a year, and after a year I was like, well, if I'm still like sick to my stomach with nerves and anxiety and like crippling like self-hatred, like if I'm still feeling this way, then like maybe I don't need to do this. Maybe I like the whole rule of like it helps for your writing. Like, it does, I guess. I could see that, but like maybe I don't need to force myself to like do this anymore if I'm so uncomfortable.
That's maybe I'll learn from that, because I've been thinking like once this pandemic gets a little more under control, I'm like, well, maybe we've got a pretty good improv troupe here in town. They do classes. Maybe I'll take one. Maybe I won't. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. I don't know. What do what you want. I don't know. I like to let people find out the hard way, actually. Because no, it's like it's not. First of all, like as someone who clearly didn't like it, like maybe I shouldn't be a spokesperson for improv. I'm sure any improviser listening would be like, wow, thank you for speaking on our behalf. Thank you for representing the medium. But I think it's like, I could see, I honestly do think like as a writer, I still see the benefits of it. I do still think about some of the rules and like,
Yeah.
even just in terms of hammering down the kind of rules you learn and like from writing a bunch of sketch comedy, it really does help with that. I just thought
I just like your mentality and your ability to quit a thing, because I'm so stubborn. I'm like, no, I started it. I've got to get good at this. Like,
no, yeah, I have no regrets about leaving the improv road, and I don't think I'll ever do it again. Yeah, but I mean, all the best. I say this like honestly, like if I go to an improv show and it's like a good improv show, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Good for you that you can do that. Like,
it's magic. It's absolute magic.
It really is, and it only exists in that moment. Like if there's sometimes cameras there, and it's like, no, they're not going to capture this.
No.
Like you can't. Even like it's the same thing with sketch comedy. My team will like have like videographers there, and we'll put it all on YouTube. And to an extent, it's like you can like see it and kind of like at least see like the writing and all that but like I think like the experience and like the energy, it has to be in that room.
Yeah, 100%. That's the beauty of like live performance, which we all miss so much. At least I do.
Yeah, no, I totally miss it. Yeah.
So I've got to ask about making a short film in New York. Did you just like, because I've only made films in Kansas and Missouri, and so I know the fact that like here people are like, ooh, it's a film, and like they're all excited and they're pretty willing. Like, I think I'm getting close to using up all the favors I have in in this town.
Yeah.
But like in my head, because I've talked to and I have a lot of friends out in LA, and they're all like, oh yeah, it's really hard out here because it's LA and everyone's trying to make a movie. What was the experience of making a short film in New York City? What were the difficulties, or was it much easier than I thought it would be?
It was a completely different experience from what I dealt with in the past, because I really wanted to like kind of do this one by the book. Because in my head, I was like, every festival is going to ask to see every paperwork. They're going to want to see like every like location release and whatnot. And so yeah, me and Georgia Hudson, the producer, we did a location scout one night, and we just went to all these different bars, and yeah, we got some like cards from people, but none of them were really like gelling. And then we went like really, one of the last ones we went to was the Way Station in Brooklyn, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is like exactly what I wanted. Like, 'cause it's like it is really hard to find like a live karaoke setup. Like New York is predominantly like kind of private room karaoke. You friends will rent out like a private room, and there's like a screen, and like you're singing like kind of there's like couches to sort of wrap the room.
Yeah.
And you're singing to yourselves and like going up on stage singing karaoke. Even like places that have that, it's usually just like a corner in the bar. It's like it's level with everyone else. You're not up on like a platform or anything. And then this bar, the Way Station, just had like everything that you like see in like the movies. Like I was just like, they're on stage, they've got the microphone, they've got the like screen behind them for the audience, and the screen in front of them for the singer. And it was just it wasn't karaoke tonight. We went, but like I could just picture it so perfectly. And they had like this great lighting grid, and so yeah, we just like got their information, and then I went back like a couple of days later, like during the day while they were kind of closed, and met with the owner, and they were really accommodating, and they like like said we can have access to the lighting grid, we can have access to the screen, so we can like project our karaoke lyrics onto it. So that's why I see throughout the movie we have like the lyrics behind them on the screen, and they really just gave us, and they had like a person that was there the whole day who like anything we needed, if the feed blows out, they can go fix it. And, so like, it was like a really great situation. And unfortunately the bar has since shut down because of the pandemic. They're called the Way Station in Brooklyn. And I do hope they can, in some capacity, open up again. Cause it's a really sad time for restaurant restaurant and bar industry. And so, yeah, but it was a perfect location. And so yeah, I guess in terms of like shooting in New York City, the question you asked a million years ago, I think it's just like, I think it was just like this one I want. Like in the past, like with sketch comedy, we're not going to get like a location release for a sketch comedy. Like we'll just like be shooting in a subway station until a cop tells us to leave, or like we'll be like go to like a cafe and be like if we order something, can we like shoot in the corner? But like they're still in business, so there's like customers talking in the background. And it's like you just take what you can because it's gonna be like a controlled environment. And so it's hard. I mean, you got to find hours when they're not actually in business. So we were there at like 6 o'clock in the morning, I think even 5 o'clock in the morning, just like at this bar and just shooting all throughout the day until I think they usually open at like 4, maybe a couple of days you got them to open at like 5, like by paying a little extra just to get them to open a little later. And then just like you just like have this bar to yourselves or school, or which is a whole other thing. We did a school too, like that was on a weekend, so like it had to be like a lot of kids aren't there, and we were like had to like set dress the classroom but then put it back the way it was. And that was scary because like I get there, like all the kids' books are in the desk. So I forgot about that as a concept. When like you're at school, like, at your desk and you put your books in it. I'm like, oh shit! Like we have to like really like remember where like each desk goes. So like this little Tommy knows like where his homework is.
Where are all my books?
Yeah, exactly. And so like I mean, you just have to like find those locations that are willing to like rent to you and just like. Yeah.
And then like also with like making the music video, you had like a soundstage, I'm guessing, that you filmed on?
That was the assistant camera person, Andrew Denatel. He had this he worked for this like studio, and they had like a little kind of like a soundstage a little bit. It was just a studio with like a white backdrop. And, like it had a lot of cool like equipment, like lights and C-stands and whatnot. And that was the last thing we did. We just went and shot this music video. And it was fun. I was like, we just had like the music playing and we were just like running through it a bunch of times. It was definitely, if you think it's stuck in your head, imagine this like, over and over again at this studio. But we had a lot of fun with that. It's a lot of energy, and it's great to like have Nimity again. Like like now she did this great job recording it, and now she gets to perform it.
So it wasn't that much of a struggle, really, given it being New York City. It was just about getting all of those permits and having to find all those locations, which seemed pretty open, it sounds like, to filming. It's just, it costs.
I mean, it was hard to find ones that were open, though. I guess we definitely had reached out to a couple that weren't. And it was a struggle with New York City because, like, I had, like, the pass van with, like, all this, like, equipment in it. And I'm like driving through like the Lincoln Tunnel, or like the Midtown Tunnel, and it's just like it's completely narrow. And I'm in this pass van, like return it on like Monday morning. I'm just like, freaking out, and that just brought me back to like the low budget sketch show days when I just like started like running around the city, like shooting those sketches on the fly, of just like being on the on the subway with my tripod and like. This big bulky thing and like jam packed to people, but like it's hard to do production in New York City because it's not just like throwing it in the back of like a car and stuff. Like you really are like lugging it around in like subways and Ubers and stuff like that. You had to find like Ubers who like have enough storage in the back, like, put in like a Pelican case and all this stuff.
That's something that like as me and my production team have gotten like more and more gear and just like professional looking equipment, that like I kind of sometimes miss those run and gun days where it's just like, the lighting in the room's fine, we'll just pull up a camera, we're just going to shoot it how it is. You know what I mean? I miss those days sometimes, instead of being like, all right, well, we've got to throw up like all these lights and these tripods and all this stuff. I miss the days when it was just like us in like a Denny's filming in the back while they were open,
Yeah, totally. We'll just make a film and set it at Denny's. Make a commercial for Denny's.
I want it to be able to look bad again, though. I want to be 19 and not know what good looking stuff is.
Yeah, I mean, you could just
That's my style.
Yeah, that's your lean into it.
Yeah,
that's your aesthetic. I'm
exactly.
a 19-year-old filmmaker.
That's one of those things that sometimes it is funny watching like studio films and being like, if I pulled that trick in my indie film, you'd be like, oh, it's out of focus in that moment, or oh, it's like weird. But like for them, it's a choice because they could afford to do it different.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, they wanted to just feel like it was like the perspective of the character, like the coming in and out of like consciousness or whatever. It's just like, yeah, but it didn't have to be like that.
Yeah.
It could have been sharp focus the whole time.
Yeah.
That's our thing. Yeah, I did. One of like my first jobs out of college was like focus pulling on a feature film.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I didn't realize just until I did that, like how important the first assistant camera person's job is. Like it's really, whether or not the film's in focus, that's like their whole job. It's just like,
yeah, and it's a name no one knows, but the whole film's in focus because of that guy.
Oh, totally. There's like one person whose job is just like, it's like the camera moves in. You have to readjust the lens. Like it doesn't just automatically go into focus. Yeah. It's right. It's so nerve-wracking to be in that position. I was like, I couldn't believe I was like doing it.
But now you do a lot of editing? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I do like all the editing for like Bedrock. I'll string our shows together. Like they'll kind of send it to me edited. Maybe I'll ask them to like give me the music file separate so I can like trim it down if I need to. But like, and I'll just like, yeah. So I mostly, to answer, I mostly just edit my own stuff now. I don't really do it professionally so much. I'm mostly just writing now.
That's awesome.
Freelance basis. Yeah.
That's great. I was going to say, do you like editing? Because I know I don't. I do it out of necessity. So
I love editing when it's my own stuff or like my team stuff. Like, I do really love it. There's like the tediousness of the like assistant editing when you're your own assistant editor and you have to like sync the footage and the sound and you have to like really organize everything and go through each take. That can be like a little much, but like once you actually get into like the editing, I do really like it. I like the troubleshooting. I like just kind of like stepping away from it, stepping back, and like really just figuring out like, okay, am I like, is there clarity here? I think clarity is like the most important part of storytelling. And it's just like, editing, it's like, you have to really like ask yourself throughout the process, like, it's the audience, like checking in with the audience, like, like at this point, do they understand what's happening? At this point, do they understand what's happening at this point? And so I think editing is just really like the final pieces of that journey of just like achieving clarity.
That's awesome. I like that.
So I do like it when it's my own stuff.
Yeah.
I've had jobs throughout the years of editing, and it can be draining. And it's just like, if you're not like, you're not fully in it, it can be difficult.
Also, clients are just the worst.
Yeah. It's just, it's like, oh, why didn't you use this shot? It's like, why you wanted to cut it down? I don't know why.
Because it looks good the way I made it. Because I made it the good way.
This way it needs to be. Like, just say what you want. Just don't shame me. Yeah.
All right. Well, I've got a couple last questions for you, and then we're pretty close to the end of this. I like to ask everyone that comes on. I like to know what art they're taking in, what they're enjoying right now, just as either suggestions for me or like my listeners. It's like, what should people be taking in? What art are you enjoying? What are you watching? What are you listening to? What's inspiring you?
Yeah, I'm really like kind of getting into more like I want to say like non-comedy stuff. I feel like I can like find kind of inspiration in that. I watched all the Marvel movies this year.
Nice.
I got a Disney Plus account, and I was just like, I'm like kind of splitting it with like 4 people, but hopefully Disney doesn't listen to your podcast. Hopefully Kevin Feige, whatever. Yeah, hopefully he doesn't listen to your podcast. But yeah, I watched every movie.
Had you ever seen any of them?
I'll say the ones I saw. I saw like all the Iron Mans. I saw, um, I saw like the first Avengers movie and like the third Avengers movie.
Okay,
And
so
that's
you skipped a
kind of it.
lot.
Yeah, I missed a lot. Like I think maybe I saw like I saw Black Panther and I saw like Captain Marvel, I think.
Oh,
And so
wow.
like there's a couple like spare ones I saw. But no, I when I did this, I literally just even if I had seen it, I watched them all. I watched everyone like in order of release date from Iron Man to I guess the latest Spider-Man, Homecoming. No, sorry.
Far from
What's
home.
second Spider-Man? The Study Abroad one, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, Far From Home. Spider-Man Far From Home. Yes, I watched them all, and then I watched WandaVision, and then I watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And yeah, it was it was a lot of work. It was like I mean, I did it like I didn't do it in like a week or something. I did it like throughout a couple months, but like
Yeah.
I watched them all, and I really enjoyed it. I was like, it's something I've always been like kind of cynical about. I've always just been like, oh, it's all like flashy and gaudy and like cheap, like whatever. It's like gimmicky, I guess. Like
Yeah.
it's and then like I actually went and watched them. I was like, wow, this is really impressive. They really built like a world. They really connected it. These characters, they really like. It's not just like like, and the action's like pretty incredible. I like that too. I had like a bigger appreciation for that than I thought I would. And then it's very well photographed. And then I was just like, it's really impressive this like world building, how they like just kind of like brought all these characters together. And so yeah, that's that's my answer. It's just all
That's
everything.
awesome.
I watch all the Marvel stuff. I've seen it all. I didn't watch the like Netflix shows like Jessica Jones and Daredevil or whatever
They're
because
pretty
I heard they
skippable.
weren't considered canon of the
Yeah.
Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah.
As a pretty intense comic book nerd, I'll tell you that it's okay. You can skip them.
Okay. I watched Luke Cage when it first came out. I thought that was pretty good.
Okay. Well, then you might like the rest. Maybe go into it. Go into Jessica Jones. Who knows?
Oh, maybe I do have a bad taste in
No, it's to everyone's preference, you know? Like if something's not for one person, it might be for someone else. So
Totally.
all right. And then I'll ask my last question really, which I ask everyone, which is if you could give someone that wanted to follow in your footsteps a piece of advice, or if you could give younger you a piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Yeah, I guess it's just like I'm trying to avoid the obvious. I'm just like, just do it. Just keep writing. Just keep but you really just have to fail a lot. I think just like really like I think the best advice I can give is like don't like it's not this whole advice of like it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's like it's a little bit what you know. Like it's like it's not like the only difference between like, someone who's like just starting out and like someone's like very successful is that they don't know anyone yet. It's like no, you might not be qualified for whatever that dream job is of yours. Like really get qualified. I think it's the best advice I would say. Like, whatever it is you want to be doing, like get good enough to do that thing. I think I look at like my writing from 2013. I think I'm a better writer now than I was in 2013. And I'm sure in 2013, I was like, oh, I just need to know more people, and then I could be a TV writer. So it's just like, it's like, no, I mean, I was a bad writer. So I shouldn't have been. I shouldn't. That person that I mean, I'm not even gonna do the math to my age, but like that kid should not have been writing or like for making movies or whatever. And yeah, I think like the best advice I have is just like get good at whatever it is you want to be doing. Like actually like be feel like you can like look at your work like, oh, like this is something that it's what I want to be creating and what like this is something I want to put my name to. And like, well, if like someone says, hey, send me your samples, I'm ready. Cause like, this is like a portfolio work I'm really proud of.
Yeah, definitely. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on.
Thanks so much for having me. Serious. This was great talking to you. It was great meeting you.
Yeah, it was great getting to know you.
Absolutely.
All right. Have a good one.
Have a good rest of your day.
You too. All right, there you go. You heard his advice. Just kind of go do it, learn, get better. Let's all get better. We can all just keep doing it. We can all keep creating. I really like that. Go hone your craft. Maybe tell some jokes. Maybe watch some jokes that me or Ethan have told. Go watch This Is What I Look Like Naked. Click through his website. Watch some of those sketches. Watch my sketches. Subscribe to me on YouTube. All those fun things. All right, it was great talking to you. Love ya. Bye.